Hello, coming at you today with a video about 3 reasons why you might be struggling to lose body fat and what you can do about it. And I'm going to try to keep this video shorter than the last one I did because who has attention spans longer than like 3 seconds these days, and I probably already lost you. But if you're still here, we're going to talk about these 3 reasons, and there certainly could be more reasons why you might be struggling to lose weight, but I just wanted to go over kind of 3 common ones briefly. So number one why you might be struggling to lose body fat is you are insulin resistant and you're going about eating in a way that doesn't really work for insulin resistance. So insulin is a hormone that the pancreas creates and secretes when we eat carbohydrates and protein to a degree. So carbohydrates break down into glucose or sugar in our blood, and insulin's job is to get that sugar into our cells to be used for energy. Whatever is left over that doesn't fit into our cells for energy then gets turned by the liver into glycogen, which is a storage form of glucose to be used later. And then whatever is left over from that gets stored as body fat. Now, insulin resistance is something that builds up over time. So it matters what we are feeding our kids, because while it may seem like they can get away with eating a lot of sugar and processed refined carbohydrates and those types of foods, this is something that could affect them later, because like any kind of resistance, it builds up over time. So same thing with alcohol or drugs. When you are constantly exposing yourself to those things, then your body builds up a resistance, and it takes more and more in order for you to feel the effects. And our cells are the same way with insulin. When we're younger, you might not realize that this is happening because it just seems like kids can burn through everything and it's not really affecting them. But then over time, as we get older, this constant barrage of insulin on our cells builds up a resistance in them, and so it takes more and more insulin in order to get that glucose into our cells to be used for energy. And insulin's job is to store energy. So it stores it in the cells, it stores it in the liver, and then it stores it as fat. And so the more that we just keep eating these foods that require a lot of insulin, the more we are just telling our bodies to store energy for later. And that's really all that body fat is just energy that we haven't been able to tap into. So briefly, a couple things to do about that is to not eat so often. We tend to graze a lot, and there's been this idea pretty prevalent that we should be eating 6 or more small meals throughout the day to kind of keep your metabolism revved up. That's not really a thing. Every time that we eat, even if it's healthier foods or lower calorie, if it's foods that require insulin, so if it's a higher carb food, then it still is going to require more and more insulin if you're resistant. And that more insulin is just telling your body to store energy. So each time we eat all throughout the day, it's just telling your body to store energy, store energy, store energy. Another thing you can do is to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating, because carbohydrates require insulin. Fat, dietary fat, does not require insulin to be used as energy. So you want to make sure you're eating the right types of healthy fats. And again, I'll do another video about those. But eating fat is not going to require that insulin, and so it's going to help your body to burn fat in the process. Okay, reason number 2 why you might be struggling to lose weight is you might have an unhappy gut or some food sensitivities that you're not aware of. You don't have to have obvious digestive symptoms in order to have some kind of gut infection or bacteria overgrowth or imbalance of good and bad bacteria. Stress, medications, foods, sugar, all these things can negatively affect our gut. And can cause a leaky gut where we're getting particles of undigested or poorly digested food out into our bloodstream, and this is seen as a foreign invader by the body, and so it launches an immune inflammatory response. And when this keeps happening over and over again, then our body gets very inflamed. And an inflamed body doesn't really have a priority of losing body fat. This system-wide inflammation can also trigger insulin resistance, and so then, just going back to what I just talked about, that can be an issue. So what to do about that? It can be a little difficult to figure things out with the gut. It's not always the easiest thing, but sometimes reducing or eliminating certain foods for some time to see how they affect your body. So there's some common foods that can be very inflammatory for a lot of people and can be irritating on the gut. Gluten is a big one. Dairy is a big one. And so I recommend to people just to start there with those two. Take them out of your diet for 4 to 6 weeks and just see how you respond. And if you're still having issues, then maybe try some other foods that tend to also be common sensitivities for people. So eggs is a common one, soy is a common one, shellfish can be a common one. But start with the gluten and dairy because I see that often with people. Okay, reason number 3 why you might be struggling to lose weight is you have some kind of hormonal imbalance. Our hormones, especially for us ladies, control so many things in the body. They're affected by what we eat, how we sleep. Our stress is a huge effect on our hormones. Excuse me, environmental stressors, skincare products, cleanings supplies, all these things can really affect our hormones and the way that they express themselves in our body. High cortisol is a really common source of excess body fat, or especially around the midsection. And cortisol is one of our stress hormones. And so when we are constantly in a state of stress, whatever it's from, it's keeping our cortisol production really high, which is also going to tell your body to store energy because your body thinks it's stressed and it thinks that it needs energy to get through the stress. So it's going to try to store as much as it can. Cortisol and other environmental stressors, foods, different things like that can also affect your thyroid, and the thyroid hormone plays a huge role in your metabolism. So high cortisol can slow down your thyroid, which can slow down your metabolism, which is going to affect your ability to burn fat. Estrogen dominance is another big one with storing body fat. We can accumulate too much estrogen either from producing it or from acquiring different estrogen-like compounds from the foods that we eat. Again, environmental toxins, skincare products are a biggie. Growth hormones in improperly raised meats can affect our estrogen and our other hormones. We also have to be able to clear excess hormones and excess estrogen, and so that involves having a well-functioning liver and detox system. So what you can do about that is going back to the gut health and the insulin resistance, because our hormones are created from having a healthy gut and eating the right types of foods and having a well-managed blood sugar regulation system. And so we want to make sure that our guts are healthy, and we want to make sure that we're not consuming foods high in sugar and foods that turn to sugar really quickly. So this didn't end up being that much shorter. Sorry about that. But there's 3 reasons. Hopefully that's helpful, and I'll have to do another video about insulin resistance and what you can do about that. So hope that helps.